Hi everyone. Today we're going to build on the challenges that have come before to do the last of the forms that we're going to do that involve repeating. And in this case we're going to be writing the Sestina or possibly a Tritina, and it's based on the repetition of end words in lines. So the background of the Sestina is that in the 12th century there were traveling poets that were called troubadours. And they were very influential, as you can see, fashionable and famous. And the way that they became fashionable, famous, and influential was by being witty and very inventive. So they competed with each other to produce elaborate and difficult styles. And that's where this elaborate style of the Sestina comes from. So here's the form. It has 39 lines. It's a long poem. The Tritina is about half as long, and that's also an option for you to write. It has 6 stanzas, and each stanza has 6 lines, and then an envoy of 3 lines at the end, for those are the finishing up lines. And the same 6 end words repeat in a pattern. The example that we're going to use is the poem Sestina by Elizabeth Bishop. September rain falls on the house. In the failing light, the old grandmother sits in the kitchen with the child beside the little marble stove, reading the jokes from the almanac, laughing and talking to hide her tears. She thinks that her equinoctial tears and the rain that beats on the roof of the house were both foretold by the almanac, but only known to a grandmother. The iron kettle sings on the stove. She cuts some bread and says to the child, "It's time for tea now." But the child is watching the tea kettle's small, hard tears dance like mad on the hot black stove, the way the rain must dance on the house. Tidying up, the old grandmother hangs up the clever almanac on its string. Bird-like, the almanac hovers half open above the child, hovers above the old grandmother, and her teacup full of dark brown tears. She shivers and she says she thinks the house feels chilly and puts more wood in the stove. "It was to be," says the marble stove. "I know what I know," says the almanac. With crayons, the child draws a rigid house and a winding pathway. Then the child puts in a man with buttons like tears and shows it proudly to the grandmother. But secretly, while the grandmother busies herself about the stove, the little moons fall down like tears from between the pages of the almanac into the flower bed the child has carefully placed in the front of the house. "Time to plant tears," says the almanac. The grandmother sings to the marvelous stove, and the child draws another inscrutable house. So you can see the pattern on echo. Some of you, again, will have discerned the pattern right away, how the end words kind of fold in on themselves as you move through the poem. But you can see the full pattern on echo and 2 more examples. And I encourage you to look at both examples before you start to write your own Sestina. There will also be an example of a Tritina if you would like to sort of take on a lesser challenge. Good luck!